From dominating in France, clinching the French League, the Coupe de France, the Trophée des Champions and the Champions League, all while averaging a staggering 4+ goals a game, to achieving the unthinkable, winning the treble with Rangers and smashing records with over 245 goals as a squad. But wait, there's more. We put our skills to the ultimate test with my local heroes, Ipswich Town, a team written off to finish 22nd inside of Football Manager. But of course we silenced the doubters and made history, winning the championship, hoisting the Papa John's trophy high, and also getting our name on that Carabao Cup in a very impressive victory over Manchester United. So let's break down these tactics then, but I do want to quickly say now is the perfect time to leave a like on the video if you are enjoying it so far and you want to see more tactics. Also want to quickly thank all of the names coming down the screen. These are going to be all the patrons, and if you do want to join all of these people, which is now at over 180, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. It gives you access to all 3 of the files in today's video in one simple download, early video and tactical release, priority in these tactic videos, and also rebuild requests, and access to the exclusive Patreon giveaways. So definitely check it out. The link is going to be in the description. Definitely worthwhile having a look. But let's go over and talk about the best 4-2-3-1 then. So the reason why it's called the best, by the way, is because we have obviously made now, this is going to be our 4th variant of the 4-2-3-1. Other creators also have got to this amount as well. Throughout the year, you find different things that work, and obviously the game changes towards the end as well. Now, this is personally the best one I have found. Some of these positions are going to change, don't you worry. It's just the ones which have changed I really want to talk about and explain why they are those roles. So we're going to kick things off right away by simply going over to the goalkeeper. Now, in my opinion, the 4-2-3-1, the formation is very solid, so you could have almost afford to have quite an attacking goalkeeper. So we're going to have a sweeper keeper on attack, a very crucial role in this team, because at the end of the day, it is an aggressive tactic, it is high pressing, and yeah, why not? At the end of the day, the sweeper keeper is a great role. The wing back on the left is going to be on support, on cross, aim centre, dribble more, and stay wider. Now, I've gone for a bit of a mixed back four, and you're going to see that very shortly when we go over to the right back role, and I will explain it more in depth. But in my opinion, that works really well in this game. Having one side doing one thing, one side doing something else is a really good way of playing football, and it does get really good results because it's very unpredictable, and even better if you've got the plays where you can switch it at half time, for example. Next to the wing back, we've got a ball playing defender, best role in the game by far, simply on defend on the default instructions, and exactly the same goes on the right hand side. Now over to the right back, it is going to change from that complete wing back. It's going to go to an inverted wing back on support on the instructions of take more risks and get further forwards. Now this is going to make a lot more sense when actually we change this role on the right hand side as well, but basically what is going to happen is you're going to have 2 different sides of the field doing different things. On this side, we're actually going to focus to sort of underlap and have this wing back sort of drive up into this area and cause all sorts of issues, and on the opposite side we are literally going to be doing the opposite, and it plays a little bit like this. So this is more focused on the left back role, to be honest with you, but I just want you to see the impact that Mendes has there. A great 1-2, he actually wins the ball back at the start of this clip, and he's going to go down the line and drive it across into Ramos. This was in the Champions League final, by the way, and he also plays a massive part in the second goal. Right here, obviously, Mount does try to put a challenge in, but Mendes wins it back, plays it inside into Ugarte, who absolutely drives it across into Dembele, back into Mbappe. A great goal, but the fullback's playing a big part. Moving up a little bit to that midfield, we're going to have a box-to-box midfielder on support, on get further forwards, move into channels, and tackle harder. You probably know me if you've watched a few tactics of mine. I do like to try and get a box-to-box in the team because it is a very, very good role to have in the team. Obviously, getting further forwards is a bit of a luxury to have on this. If you are playing as a sort of weaker team, I would recommend taking that off completely and just have move into channels and tackle harder. Alongside of him, we're not actually going to go with this role. We are going to go with a ball-winning midfield player on support, on pass it shorter, take fewer risks, dribble less, hold position, and mark tighter. Now, this is great because what happens here is we've got one midfield player that is all focused on keeping it very risk-free, very defensively minded, and obviously that is pretty much perfect because we've got a box-to-box which then can get further forwards, can take risks. Now, as I did previously mention, if you are playing as a small team, you can obviously eliminate a little bit of that sort of expressive element this box-to-box has. But to be honest, most teams are going to be fine playing like this because you've got one midfield player here who is literally, if you want to use the word negative, you can, but he is very sensible with what he's going to be doing, and he's going to be protecting that back four, which obviously is a key thing to be doing. Going further forwards then to this front four, or front three technically, but honestly, the link up between these three was absolutely amazing. On the left-hand side, we've got an inverted winger on attack, simply on tackle harder. In the middle, we're going to have a shadow striker also on attack, actually on the default instructions, because what it gives you naturally, the dribble more, the take more risks, the moving into channels, they are all things I'd want him to do. So therefore, if he's already doing them, we can't literally add them, so it doesn't really matter. And on the right-hand side, it's not going to be a wide target forward. It is going to be a winger, as you could probably predict, and that is going to be on cross aim centre and tackle harder. So now we can explain exactly what happens with this team. So on the left-hand side, the wing-back is obviously going to be sort of going on the outside of the pitch, not obviously off the pitch, but overlapping here to get into wide areas as this player is going to cut into here. What has happened? We're going to drag him back down there, and obviously this player is going to be in here. And on this scenario, obviously the winger is going to stay out wide, and this player is almost going to underlap into this area. And the great thing about this is, if the box-to-box does get further forwards before the inverted wing-back does, the inverted wing-back is almost going to be in here, almost replacing that box-to-box. So he also covers that role very, very well. Obviously, Liverpool have played this way, England have played this way with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it's a very similar way of playing football, so a very, very sensible way. And to finish it off, the advanced forward on attack, on pass it shorter, and also tackle harder. Now, in terms of the style, it is going to be based off that pressing style. On an attacker mentality, you can easily go attacking. For some reason, you feel like you're conceding too many goals. I never had this issue, but you can obviously knock it down to positive, but I would recommend staying on that attacker mentality. We are actually going to opt to pass into space, because this is a great way of not just restricted at too short pass play. At the end of the day, there's no harm in going long on some occasions. We're going to overlap left, underlap right, and play out from the back. So a very unique way of playing. And do you know what? Some people might be like, that looks a little bit weird. And I've never played like this either. But do you know what? I tested it as I wanted to obviously focus that inverted wing back on making underlap and runs and sort of just having a lot of people in that box. And it works really, really well. In terms of that passing directness, we are going to go with the standard and the tempo, as it is the meta of the game. We are going to completely max it out on mixed crosses and also run at defence. And honestly, guys, playing like this scored me tons of goals. Picked a game with a variety of goals, and hopefully you guys are watching at this point, because it's always cool to see where you can expect the goals to come from. And honestly, with this tactic, it's not exactly got a tiki-taka DNA, so it is going to be a mixture. It can do pretty much anything. You can see here it can link up really good pass and play, but then when that final ball is on, we are going to go for it. As you can see, great link-up play there, and obviously Mbappe is going to finish it. A little bit of a set piece here into Draxler, into Mukiele. You can see that inverted wing back linking up the play into depth. I mean, that, yeah, absolutely incredible. By the way, what do you think Dembele is going to be like at PSG? I am very curious with that, as we go long on that occasion from Draxler to Kylian Mbappe, who's going to drive it back into Ugarte, a player who, not really known for his finishing, I don't think at least, absolutely rockets that into the bottom corner, as it is going to be Mendes now into Ugarte. Great pass and play, and that's an example of where we do obviously focus a more short passing style. But the reason why I didn't focus on purely going down that path is because sometimes it can be very boring to watch. You don't score as many goals as what you can by having that mixture of short passing, and obviously, like on that example, going out to the wide area and simply basic football, get the ball into the box. And it's something which we're not afraid to do, as you can see there, going back to a slightly more direct approach, a very comfortable game. In terms of the transition, we are of course going to get this counter press on, and of course we're going to counter attack, the two meta things of FM. And to be fair, when you are playing as a team like a PSG and a Rangers, you can definitely get away with it. But to be honest, it works with any team in this game. Everybody knows the 4-2-3-1 high press is a very good way to start, but I feel like this is a really perfected version of playing like it. And to finish it off, we're going to have take short goal kicks playing to anyone across that back four. And in terms of the out of possession tab, we're going to have the high pressing line of engagement. We're going to max out the trigger press and also prevent short goalkeeper distribution while playing that standard defensive line. Now, if your players are finding this too hard, obviously a couple of things you can do to obviously help this is have the correct training in place, make sure you're pretty much rotating your players. It is common sense, but I do see a lot of comments saying, oh, it's very strenuous on the players are getting injured. There are two big things you can do, and obviously the other thing you can do is lower maybe the trigger press a little bit, lower the tempo by one if you are playing as a really small team. But honestly, across a season, we've done so well. If you can, I would play like this. But of course, we have now got an attacking variant and also a defensive variant, so I do recommend you download all three if you're a Patreon. If not, you can simply copy it click for click, which is why I keep it in the videos, because I'm not trying to force anybody to obviously go over just to get access to them. So we are going to kick things off with the sweeper keeper, who is going to remain on that role. The inverted wingback now actually goes completely to an attacking duty and therefore gains all of these additional instructions, just about making him a little bit more attacker minded compared to the default variant. Both ball playing playing defenders remain exactly the same. On the left-hand side, the wing-back is now on support, on cross-aim centre, dribble more and also stay wider. So the back four remains basically the same. The main real change is going to be this inverted wing-back who now is very attacking-minded. In terms of the midfield, we're going to have a box-to-box simply on support, and he is going to be on the same instructions because that role is actually quite attacking as it is, and I could have changed it, could have had a Metzala, etc, but I want to be sensible. I still want to have a player that is going to get back and help defend, but also can get further forwards and cause some issues. And next to him, we've gone with a Roman playmaker, a very good role in this game. Obviously a player which roams and creates plays. Yeah, pretty much what it is. And he's going to pass it shorter and also mark tighter. Going further forwards, we're going to have the inverted winger on the left with the additional instruction now of shooting more often. And this is purely if you've got a player that has got good finishing on that left-hand side, because if you are trying to chase a game, you want as many players having a crack at goal as possible. So if he's got good finishing, have that on. If he hasn't, I would consider just taking it off. In the middle, the shadow striker remains exactly the same. And the winger on the right also remains unchanged, including the striker, who also is going to remain unchanged. Apart, I did nearly miss it, shoot more often is going to be added to him as well, because sometimes this is down to preference as well. Some people don't like this instruction because, you know, they'd rather a patient build-up play, but the reality is, when you're attacking, you can only be so patient. So having just two players that are going to shoot more often is actually going to benefit you a lot more than not having it on. In terms of the in possession tab, there is going to be one change, and that is going to now be more expressive, partnered alongside of that run at defence. By the way, the mentality has remained unchanged on attacking because we don't really need to go ultra attacking because it already is capable of scoring lots of goals. In transition, just the one change as to be expected, that is simply going to be the addition of distributing the ball quickly. And in terms of the out of possession tab, we're going to have the higher defensive line, so quite a big change there, pushing the team up and getting even more aggressive, still matching that high pressing line, still much more often, still going to have that get stuck in mentality, and obviously applying pressure to the goalkeeper. That's going to give you an attacking variant. Now you guys need a tactic which is going to defend those games out. And that is where this comes in. It is going to be called the best 4-2-3-1 def. I usually just go attack, defense, nice and simple. And there are going to be some changes, starting off with the sweeper keeper on defend, a little bit more restricted than the attacking one. I don't want him coming out, taking more risks, being risky, be a little bit more composed in that goal now. The inverted wing back on the right is now simply going to be on support with no additional instructions. The ball playing defenders remain unchanged in all three variants, both simply on the default instructions. The wingback on the left is going to change a little bit, very similar to the inverted wingback, a simple wingback on support on the default instructions. The two midfield players, again, there is going to be a change. The ball-winning midfield player now drops to a defensive duty on pass it shorter and also mark tighter, an even more sensible version than the one in the default variant, just to really protect that back four. Next to him, we're going to keep the box-to-box, but he's not going to get further forwards. He's not going to move into channels. He's going to be a little bit more sensible and a little bit less expressive in the way that he sort of attacks. So pass it shorter, dribble less, and also tackle harder. On the left-hand side, an inverted winger on support, we are going to keep these roles in that front four, pass it shorter, and also tackle harder. On the right, it's going to be a winger on pass it shorter, cross-aim centre, and also tackle harder. You've got to notice a lot with this front four as we look at the shadow striker here and also see pass it shorter. We are now adopting a possession-based style. We're going to try and high press to win the ball back, and when we've got it, simply pass it around to annoy the opposition. And the advanced forward is also going to have that instruction on alongside of tackle harder. In terms of the team instructions, we are now going to drop to a positive mentality, so one down from that attacking outlet. We are still going to have fairly wide on, we're still going to pass into space, we're still going to play out from the back, but now we're not going to look for those overlap and underlap and runs. We're going to be a lot more composed with the ball. We've also dropped the passing directness all the way down to much shorter. You guessed it, that's obviously to maintain possession a lot easier. And obviously the likes of dribble less also helps keep the ball and be more disciplined, just to literally pass the ball around and bore the opposition and tire them out. Simple as that. And if that's not enough, we've gotten a little bit scummy with this. We've also added on time wasted on sometimes and play for set pieces. So this is a real good way to run down that clock if you are desperate to hold on to a lead. In transition, there are going to be a couple of changes. The counter press is going to be on. Nothing's going to change when possession has been won because I don't want to counter, but also I don't want to hold shape and restrict the players to just be stuck where they are. So we're just going to simply leave it unticked. We're going to slow the pace down and, of course, still distribute to anyone across that back line taking short goal kicks. In terms of the out of possession tab, we're now going to have the standard defensive line. That is going to come back. We're still going to have that high press and line of engagement. We're still going to have much more often on that trigger press and also prevent short goalkeeper distribution. So the one change is going to be removing the get stuck in. Now, I did try and have stay on feet, but in my opinion, it's a touch too complacent, but feel free to experiment with that. But in my opinion, it's best just not having anything selected. And that is going to give you guys three fantastic, the best 4-2-3-1 tactics in FM23. If you've got all three of these, you're going to be completely fine for your seasons because they all offer something very, very different. The default one is a great one to go into your games with, and obviously you can tweak it as you go if you want to, but in my opinion, partner that alongside of an instant change to the attacker one for when you're playing a small team and you can't quite break them down, or if you're 1-0 down and you're trying to chase a game, you can switch to this. And this one here is perfect to even go into games against really big teams if you are playing as an underdog, or if you're trying to obviously seal games out. So you are covered for literally every game scenario. But if you guys have enjoyed today's video, please do leave a like, drop a little subscription below. Be sure to leave a comment on any tactics you want to see in this game, or they now might be in FM24 because we've still got a lot to do. But enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.